Right, thanks a lot for coming along. Basically, I'm going to talk about first, because I know we're going to have a bit of a mix of knowledge, right? So we'll just start by talking about what is in what food, how many calories that makes up, what it affects your body on a basic level. And then I'm going to talk about different types of dieting, how that affects it. And then finally, we'll go with some general guidelines based on like your weight and how active you are about what you should eat. Okay? So, all food we know is calories. Yeah? There's going to be some audience participation here as well, by the way. Right. Now, if we break it down from calories, what's the next thing we break it down into? Yeah, your calories is energy. Yeah. So calories are made up of, do we know what different types of calories are? So, macronutrients, in other words, okay, all food is, that you eat, all calories will be made of carbohydrate, protein, or fat, basically. Fiber counts for a little bit. We've heard of that? Yes? Okay. So, let's start with some calories, which is energy. That's all it is. So we all think that we eat less calories than we spend to lose weight, vice versa, things like that. But we need energy to perform well. Yeah, makes sense? Okay. So when I split it then, we can have, we've heard of these, carbohydrate, protein, okay. Now, right, let's start with, they've all got, so 1 gram of them has got a certain number of calories in. Have we got any idea the differences? And then they've then got more calories in than others. No? Fat's got more, spot on, that's good. Any idea how many grams, how many calories are in 1 gram of fat? No? 9 calories. Okay. So from that, what about these two? Say carbohydrate first. Any ideas? How did he guess? 1 gram of fat is 9. What do we reckon? 4. 1 gram of carbohydrate is 4. 1 gram of protein is also 4. Okay? Got that? Okay. Do we know what they do? What do they do? Let's start this off. Carbohydrate. What do we need it for? Second? Energy. Exactly, yeah. So all carbohydrate that you eat gets broken down into something called glycogen, which you use in the fuel to do work. Okay? So yeah, predominantly that's energy. Protein. What do we need that for? Muscle. People always think muscles. That is true muscles. But at the same time, your skin, your organs, everything, your bones, it's all made of protein. So it's basically for growth. As you see the guys in there talking about protein shakes and protein, they're trying to build muscles, they're trying to increase the amount of tissue there so they can consume a lot of protein because that is it. At the same time, for anything, like we say organs, skin, bones, you need protein turnover for the regeneration of cells basically. It's quite important. Fat, what do we use fat for? Say that again. Yes, yeah, that's good. Yes, yeah. Hello. Right, yes. So it does, yeah. We'll go into that later. Vitamins, which are needed for various processes, they can be absorbed better with fat. But we also, when we think of carbohydrates produces energy, fat produces energy as well. We can use fat as a fuel. Yeah? And also, things like cholesterol that we all think is a bad thing, you need that to transport around the circulation system. Without the presence of fat, that doesn't happen. So we'll say, yeah. Right. When we're working in the gym and we're working at a high intensity, we're going to prioritize using one of these two as fuel. We're working hard, so you're lifting weights or you're sprinting. Any idea when your body would rather use carbohydrates or fats? Do we know? So if you're working at a high intensity, you'd rather use carbohydrates. Okay? Because it can be broken down much more easily than fat. Okay? Longer chains of fat. It takes your body is lazy, so it will always find the easiest path to doing something. The easiest way to synthesize energy is using carbohydrates. The thing is, if you work at high intensity, you burn up all the carbohydrate, and then all you're left with is this. So, whilst you might think, oh, I just want to burn fat, if you free up this, then that helps you to burn more of this. Does that make sense? Okay. Right then, let's look at what food contains these. So carbohydrate, what foods have we got? Pasta, yeah. Cereal, potato, good. Rice, yeah, good. We all know this. Good. Okay. So we'll classify this as starch. That makes sense? Yeah? The thing that, so at the moment it's quite a big anti-sugar discourse in the media. Yeah? But that's the same. Sugar is just carbohydrate. We've heard of like complex and simple carbohydrate. Some people talk about that. All that means is, say you take brown rice, that will take you longer to break down than a Mars bar. And so, hence they would call the brown rice complex carbohydrate and Mars bar simple. But really, they all get broken down in the glycogen. At the end, it's all the same. That makes sense? Protein. What foods have got protein in? Yeah. Yeah, so we'll go, yeah, meat, fish, eggs. Okay, good. Bit stuck if we're a vegetarian. Yeah, go on. Oh yeah. Okay, that's fine. I was going to go into this. Right. So this gets a little more complicated. That protein gets broken down in your body into little things called amino acids. We heard of that. So, yeah. Then they get synthesized back into protein. So protein is the whole form, like say this is a bicep, just on a simple level. And then that gets broken down, degraded into little parts, and they can be synthesized into either the same or any tissue. Does that make sense? So that's in its whole form, the amino acids. Now, the food you eat will be broken down into amino acids, right? But certain foods have only got some of them. And so these, the closer it is to you than the size of, the more fuller the amino acid profile is. So meat tends to have, and eggs, they tend to have all the essential ones you need. That makes sense? So you can get protein. Do we know any vegetarian source of protein? Corn, say again? Yes. Yeah, soya. Yeah. Nuts, good, yeah. Seeds, good one again as well. And so you can get adequate protein from them. The thing is, even on their own, they don't have all the amino acids that you need. So you need to, from a vegetarian perspective, to get all the protein you need, you need to be going from a variety of sources. Does that make sense? Okay. What's got fat in it then? What's that? Yeah, dairy. Oils, pasta, butter, sorry, yes, yeah. Butter, oils, anything you cook with, yeah. Anything else? Chocolate, yes, yeah, you're right. And the split is somewhat so often I'll tell people eat dark chocolate rather than milk chocolate. But dark chocolate will have more fat in it than milk chocolate. So the less, when you see a cocoa percentage on chocolate, the less cocoa there is, they tend to fill just with more sugar. And so there'll be higher carbohydrate content than fat. Are you with me there? So because carbohydrate is 4 calories a gram, but fat is 9 calories a gram, you end up eating more calories than dark chocolate. But, and this is another thing, the sugar, do we need this as much as we need this? One thing. And also, the number of calories you eat tends to be linear with the rate at which they leave your stomach. So if you eat 1 calorie, you get more. And so if you eat a bit of milk chocolate, half an hour later I can do some more. Whereas dark chocolate tends to sort of keep you fuller a bit longer. Makes sense? Or not, or it just needs more. Okay. Right. Now, take one of these each and then pass it around. Any questions about any of that? No? Like the top bit there is pretty much what we just talked about. And then below that, I've just given an example, that's by no means exhaustive, of various vitamins and compounds that you need for your health. And just vaguely what they do and what you find. Now if you look at the column on the right, we look at the micronutrients. And you look at pretty much everything there you will get from meat, fish, vegetables, and fruit. Yeah? So, what you essentially need to be healthy, that's the food you need. So when we talked earlier about the carbohydrate food, and when I asked you what types of food you said, rice, pasta, bread, it's largely devoid of any other nutrients other than the energy. So for your health, that's why generally you're best off eating food that is going to benefit your health rather than it's just a short-term indulgence to your swimming. And the foods that are going to do that are the whole foods, so plants and animals. Does that make sense? Okay. Right, turn over to the second page. This looks complicated, but it's not. Right, I've basically got two graphs here of different types of diets. Okay? Some of you will have seen me do this before. I'm just going to look through it and tell you a bit more detail. The top one is basically what a typical diet is. You got the top one is what a normal diet is. Okay, so I'll run through it here. 0 calories are up here. Okay, you go on a diet, what do you do? Drop your calories, and often by a lot. So say we drop our calories. So this is where you were. Say as an example. So you eat 2,000 calories a day and you maintain your weight. You say, I need to lose weight and go on holiday. And you drop your calories to 800 a day. And then there's 12 weeks where you eat 100 calories. Makes sense? Okay? Right, what happens to your body fat if we do that? It goes down. Yeah, it does. So body fat goes down. Now, the other factor we've got to go is metabolism. And so, how many calories you just tend to burn at rest, especially at rest. Because we can affect how many calories you burn otherwise by being more active. But in terms of how many calories you burn at rest, when you're asleep or when you're sat down, what happens to your body's metabolism if you drop your calories? It slows down. Yeah? So that will slow down as well. So your body does that. A lot of the time it will just do it by making you a bit lazy. So you'll know if you don't eat very much and you do a lot in the gym, you get home, you don't feel so much like doing anything. You can't control that. That's your body trying to find. It always wants to be at homeostasis or wants to be at the same level. So say before your diet, these three lines are in the same place. So you want to maintain weight and your body will go happier. But you have gone and taken calories right down, so that's thrown a lot of things out of whack. Your body can't go down, but your metabolism will slow down as well. Got all that, yeah? So say, as an example, we were on holiday here, and we finished, we're on holiday, and we go back, or even probably on whilst on holiday, we go back to your original number of calories, if not, maybe a little bit more, and then we maintain that with it. Fair to say that's a typical thing of people do. Right, what's going to happen to your body fat? It goes back up, yeah. So that'll start to go back up. What's going to happen to your metabolic rate? It will go up, yeah. The problem we have here though is your metabolism will not recover that quickly. There's always a little bit of a delay. Okay, so that's coming up slowly. Now, you see we lost weight here because the number of calories you eat was a long way below your metabolic rate. So that there is your calorie deficit. Does that make sense? So the only calorie deficit, that's because this is the number of calories you're burning, this is the number you're taking in. So there's less, you're losing weight. Now, because your calories are suddenly jumped right back up, but your metabolism is not recovered, then there's the opposite now. And we go to calorie surplus. That makes sense? And so your body fat will come back on. You won't be aware it was. Because your metabolism is a little bit behind this one, it shoots back on a bit further than where you were at the top. So we end up a little bit faster than before we start dieting again. And then all that happens is, we go, I'm really big, I need to go on the diet again. And then we go on that diet. Metabolism slows down again. Your body fat starts to come down. Then the problem comes here. When your metabolism and your calories be at the same level, then you stop losing any weight because your body's found this where you were here now. Does that make sense? So you're no longer losing weight, but your body fat is not quite slowing down as it was. So that's why we get stuck doing severe calorie deficit. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Yeah? So it's called, it's termed metabolic damage. And so your body just down-regulates lots of things. Like when people say they're more thyroid, underactive thyroid, that is a big contributor to your metabolism. That will be down-regulated if you drop your calories as well. So lots of things, your body slows down so that you can just stay the same way. So that's the option that most people do, and we're still doing, especially this time of year. You see people coming in and going on holidays, and this is what they do. And it will, the reason they do it is like, of course it does work. It does work, but that's any diet works. Like the cabbage soup diet will work. I can tell you to eat 2 Mars bars a day, and that will work. It doesn't matter. I mean, it sounds silly when you put it like that, but because it works, people do it. But long term, it's just have a negative effect. Make sense? What I'll do is, I'll just quickly go over. This is obviously not exact, right? That's just a general pattern you get the idea. Everyone wears slightly different. But ideally, what we do is just slow. Just as balance in the short term, but long term, we're much better off. So, start again. Calories. One that drops straight down, we just face it. Okay? So the same thing happens. The metabolism slows down, but on the other end, your body fat goes down. Right now, and I think we talked about this before, Jeremy, where this will be your diet. But what you can do sometimes, especially if you've got a history of having done what I talked about in the previous one, done lots of diets, your metabolism is probably not in particularly good shape. And so it's not always the best idea for you to be on an active weight loss phase. So if you're maintaining your weight, let's say 1,000 calories a day, and you need to lose weight, it's really not good for your health to be dropping that low. So what you really want to do is try and recover your metabolism, which again is a long, slow process. The long term, that's the best thing you can do. So there's a thing called reverse dieting. And a lot of, when you see like physique athletes on stage, a lot of them, they diet down. You okay? Coach, you'll need to go to the seats by the entrance there. Yeah, they'll diet down. You'll see bodybuilders, both female physique athletes as well, they come in push on, they're really, really lean. So they're dieting. Now, if they just suddenly do what we did before and eat a lot of food, then they find it harder to get lean in the future. So a good thing that the educated ones who have good coaches do is they reverse that, which you can apply yourself. In that you just slowly, reintroduce them. Well, you're talking like 50 or 100 a week with. And what you're trying to do is just boosting that body weight. Now, if you do this slowly enough, your body fat should not shoot on too much. And what you're looking to try and do is get that disconnect there. And now, whilst you started here, you may, and you've got to this thing, you may not be, you think you're bigger than you were there, but then as soon as you've gained metabolic rate. So from that point, it's easier to diet in the future. Does that make sense? Great. Any questions about that? Right, turn over to the left leg. Now, just because people often ask, well, what's the best diet for me? It depends, doesn't it? It always depends. Now, you've got government recommendations that will say something like 2,500 calories for a man, 2,000 for a woman. And I mean, I suppose that could be okay, but so much variety in that. I will eat 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day to maintain, whereas other people will be eating 1,000. And it depends. If someone is half my size, they're not going to need as many calories. So this still depends. Like if you've got a history of dieting, if you're diabetic, there's lots of things that could change this. But I'll give you some general guidelines there for what I would suggest would be a good amount for you to do. Does anyone want to be used as an example? So I can just kind of go through it. So then, you're okay to tell me your weight is 63. I haven't got a calculator. So 63. So I've said, roughly, you want to drink about 1 litre of water for every 25 kilos of body. Now, when you go to the gym, then that will increase. That will be your base level. So, you do that. So that might equate to roughly every 2.5 it will work out occasionally, maybe about 3 litres of water. Right now, I'll sit there, active. How active are you? Right, how often are you coming to the gym? Okay, and then are you everyday life you walk around? Yeah, so we can say you're active. So that second line there, I'll give you a protein quota. Say we say you're active, so we use 1.5. Yeah. So I would say 1 gram per pound, that's 63 times 1.5 equals 94.5. Slide 10. So ish protein. For a starting point, I would just, if you have no idea, you don't really know where we're going with it, I would roughly try and keep these two equal. Okay? The reason, when I talked about the government recommendation, the carbohydrate was really high. I don't know if you ever looked at this. We've all seen the classic food pyramid. You know the food pyramid? The triangle. At the bottom you've got all the starches, and then you build up fruit and veg, and then meat, and then it's top with fat. We know why that's a recommendation. Any ideas? I mean, for years, saturated fat got blamed for a lot of health problems. Although in recent times it's been found that saturated fat itself is not an independent cause of heart disease or cholesterol or something like that. Carbohydrate is quite cheap to produce, it's quite cheap for you to buy, it's very energy unintensive to make. So to raise a cow and then to get all the bits of meat off that, the amount you can get off that for a field of corn takes a lot more energy to raise that cow. So if you're after sustainability for the planet, eating a lot of meat is not really, it's difficult. But for your health, probably much better. So that's why I tend to recommend you eat a lot of carbohydrate food. The problem with that is, what we talked about earlier, what's got the nutrients you need for your health. The starchy food hasn't really got it. So for optimal for your health, it's not much point in making, it's just filler. If you're putting a lot of rice, a lot of pasta on your plate, it's not giving you anything other than the energy from that. And of course it causes a lot of disease and obesity as an energy surplus. And it's very easy to eat a lot of it. It's addictive, it's morbid. So to start with, especially when you often used to eat an awful lot of this, I will try and keep these roughly the same. Okay? Right, fat, I've said roughly about 1 gram per kilogram. So that would again be about 2. So you know, said it's just an even distribution. Okay. Sorry. Yes, now, the thing with that though, we know this stuff has got all the calories on it. Yes. So that's 9 calories per gram, and they are 4. Then we've got a calculator. Because we get around a rough idea of calories. Right, how many calories in 1 gram of protein? There's fiber. Do we know what fiber is? What's that? No, not right, but not wrong. Sorry, because that number is those 2 up together. What's that? Do we know what fiber is? No, it's just fiber is indigestible carbohydrate basically, so you can't quite break it down, and that just tends to. Do we know what's it help with? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Now you can. Where do we get it from? What food's got fiber in it? So fruit, veg, perfect. Yeah. So you've been told to eat whole grains and brown food rather than white. Yeah. One of the reasons is because the whole grain has got more fiber in it. So take brown rice, white rice. White rice is just the brown rice with the brown casing taken off. And for your body to break down that brown casing helps pass things through, and it burns calories for you to do it as well. Makes sense? And a few of the antioxidants and the vitamins we can take in the casing. So whole grains tend to be better than refined grains. Yes, they're more vitamins and more fiber. Fiber's got a tiny amount of calories in them. Probably looking at most 2 grams. What if I say here, half a gram per kilo? So if we went about 31, that's 262. Right, that is fairly low for starters. Well, it depends what your maintenance is at the moment. So it depends what if you know how many times you do a day, no idea. So from that, these numbers can be expanded. Like I said, it's on to, if you're very active, you're breaking down more protein, you need more protein. You're also burning more carbohydrate, you need more carbohydrate. So, but just as a general guide, someone to start with you have no idea, so that gives you a good balance. Alright? Right, have we got any questions about anything? Oh, food related. No? Anything? There's lots of things I haven't covered. But go on. Protein shakes. Okay, yeah, good. So, protein shakes, for most people, for 9 people out of 10, are non-essential. They're just, if you don't get enough protein out of your diet, then which for vegetarians could be things like I talked about earlier, you're not getting the full amino acid profile from vegetable source of protein. Whereas protein shake will have that in it. If you're eating it out of food, you tend to be getting B vitamins, it tends to, you're burning calories to break down food, there's lots of iron, that sort of thing. So you're going to get more nutrition out of the food version than the shake. If you're especially looking at building muscle, then having a protein shake directly after the training is often good because that's when you train, you break down protein in the muscle. And so shortly after you train, it's very sensitive to being resynthesized. So that's why you see guys walking around with a protein shake. Most of you probably don't know why they're doing it, but that's why you would have a protein shake immediately after you train. Okay, but if you're not getting around about a gram per kilo body weight, especially if you're active, then it could be worth it. Apart from that. Yeah. Oh, this is right. Good. All right, who's eating breakfast this morning? Okay. Well, what did you have today? Boiled eggs. I know what you had. Orange. Who else had breakfast? Come on now, what did you have? Scrambled egg. Almond salad? Okay. Yeah. Toast. Cheerios. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? I'm going to tell you what. Sausage and bacon sandwich. Right, there's a school of thought that what you eat in the morning kind of programs your fuel usage for the day. There's some debate as to how true this is. But if you wake up in the morning and you eat Cheerios or toast, obviously you're giving yourself carbohydrates straight away. So you're giving yourself glycogen for fuel. If you're eating, say you're eating sausage and bacon, right, then there's a lot of fat in that. But by consuming fat, you're programming your body to burn fat as a fuel. And so I've seen a lot of high-profile people, trainers and educated people advocate eating a fat source for breakfast. Now, bacon and sausage obviously is very processed. But certainly like nuts, nuts is what I often recommend to people just because they take no prep time, when people short for time. A handful of cashew nuts or something is much better for you than cereal in the morning. The other thing, do we know about blood sugar? So, a lot of you will know this already. When you eat, especially carbohydrate foods, or any food will do to an extent, you give yourself blood sugar spike. So, this is the cause of a lot of problems. Short and long term. So, great. So, say you eat some Cheerios for you, actually. Cheerios will send your blood sugar right up. And then how does your body bring blood sugar down? Some of us know this. What's the hormone? Insulin. Exactly. Insulin. So you produce insulin to bring your blood sugar down. Okay? So, well, usually, we heard of hypoglycemic and hyperglycemic. So hyperglycemic is when your blood sugar is really high, and then hypoglycemic is when it's really low. And obviously, diabetics struggle with this. The reason diabetics struggle with this is because they don't produce, type 2 diabetics get resistant to when they produce insulin. So insulin takes the sugar out of the blood and sends it either into your muscles or your liver, or you can store it as fat. Whereas diabetics, type 2, their tissues they're not sensitive to insulin, so the blood sugar just remains in the blood, which is not going to be a help. Make sense? Now, say you had orange, then it would be more like, the spike would be more like this. Okay, so you still get this way, the insulin goes up and brings it back down, but it's less than that. So the glycemic index, heard of this GI? That gives food a score out of 100. That's how much it affects this So most cereals, most breakfast cereals, have a score of about 90, 80, 90. And so they give you a really good sugar up and a really big down. Now the thing is when you get them down, you get hungry. This is why a lot of people get hungry mid-morning after they've had cereal for breakfast. Or mid-afternoon after they've had like crisps and bread. Because they're on the same kind of effect. So when you were going for the sausage and the bacon, you're probably going to be more full from that than had you had. Okay. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. But most people will have that. Now, you have had, don't get me wrong, you have a couple of sausages, bacon, bread, you might have 500 calories where your bowl of cereal is only 200 calories. So you have eaten more food, but you're more likely to get hungry as soon as having had that because fat will barely spike your blood sugar more. On a glycemic index, you can't even find meat because it has that little effect on your blood sugar. So it just keeps your energy level steady. So breakfast, often you're better getting something that keeps your blood sugar steady. And if you look at nature, there's nothing really with a high glycemic index in nature. And if you look at it on the table, everything's refined. Because it's taken away everything that makes your body hard to break it down, so your body can break it down like that. And so that has two effects. One, you don't burn as many calories digesting. Two, you get a big blood sugar up and a big blood sugar down, and therefore three, you end up eating more food indirectly. And usually refined food does not have much nutrition in it in the first place. So if you have cornflakes for breakfast, let's say cornflakes on a glycemic index has got a score like 90 out of 100. Table sugar, sucrose, has got a score about 65. If you put sugar on your cornflakes, you're probably lowering the glycemic index of your bread. Same with white bread. So, yeah, not good white bread, cereals, really not that good for you. If you do this all the time, this is a big contributor to getting type 2 diabetes as well. Anything else? No? Same thing, yeah. It's annoying. So, we're socially conditioned to think of that as breakfast food, cereal and toast. And then they come out with that and they say to you at the time, releases of extra hours. I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked at the actual makeup of the Belgian biscuit, but I'll be 90% sure it will be very similar to cereal. Yeah. I mean, obviously, everyone's different. Some people I speak to and they'll say, I had cocoa for breakfast and I'm fine, so what do you want? So from the being full side of things, that's great, that's fine, but it still has really good to be a health plan. Usually dinner time, when I ask people what do you have for breakfast, lunch and dinner is always the best meal people have in the day. But eating dinner food for breakfast would be brilliant, it's just hard to get your head around when you're so used to not doing it. Yeah. Brilliant. That's really good. Yeah. Anyway, eggs is one that people think of okay for breakfast food. Doesn't take long to make. You can poach and scramble and make them into an omelette. There's a bit of variety there. You can put mushrooms, peppers, tomatoes. Yeah. Eggs, nuts. But there's no reason you can't get a nice piece of steak out and have that for breakfast. That'll be really good for breakfast. Takes no time at all. Okay. Anything else? No? Right, brilliant, that'll do then. If you've got any questions, come and see me yourself personally. Thanks for coming along.